Endorphins are neuropeptides from the hypothalamus and pituitary gland. They cross the blood-brain barrier and head into the opioid receptors to block pain and create feelings of euphoria. And if anything I said resonates inside your head, then tune on in to the Endorphin Report.
Hello and welcome to the Endorphin Report. I'm here with Daniel and Cynthia again, and we're going to be talking about another romantic, in this case, a comedy.
Dramedy.
Irreplaceable You.
Starring Gugu and Mbatha-Raw and Michiel Huisman, and available on Netflix.
So this is a brand new movie, eh?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and if you're going to plan to watch it, don't listen because we're going to just ruin everything.
Yes, we've got some segments like Are They Going to Make It? And Ooh versus You are regular segments, followed by the Endorphin Report. But first, the plot.
I mean, to start it off, you hear a voiceover of Abby initially, and she's talking, and boom, there's a grave with her name on it. And she's like, I'm dead. This is the end of my story. But here's what happened. And then her fiance or partner, basically, Sam, is standing at her grave. And then they, go back to, the start of the movie. And you're like, what? She really died. It's not like a teaser, like somebody gets cancer or something. It's like, no, she's really dead.
Wow.
So...
Is this like Charlie St. Cloud again? Is this people talking to dead people?
No.
It's more like The Crow. She comes back and murders all of the other people responsible for her death.
All right. Cool.
No.
So they have a voiceover, and she's like, I'm dead, but here's what happened. And then they show her at age 8 meeting her partner, Sam, and they're, watching fish, and they talk about how, a fish bites another fish when it loves the other or wants the other. So she bites him. And then they show a montage of them getting together, being together and happy since age 8, which is kind of early for romance to start.
Cynthia, how many couples do you know who got together when they were 8?
Nobody. Because that's like siblings. That's like sibling time. That's like...
Yeah, you're not sexually attracted to the people you grew up with at that age.
8. Ooh, you're so many years from puberty. Ooh.
But the movie makes it look like this is the ultimate form of romance.
Yeah.
If you could be together from such a young age, it means you're really meant for each other.
Yeah.
Is this a thing where they're friends and then they both go off and have their own romances and then they realize that they were the right person all along?
Hold hands from age 8 and stay together, and they show them frolicking and happy, and then they show them moving in together, and they look happy the whole time. They're just, two buds in a rug. That doesn't make sense, but yeah.
2 buds in a rug. That makes perfect sense to me.
Common expression.
Everybody in their life is like, oh my God, you guys are the perfect couple.
Perfect couple.
We want what you have.
So they do the whole montage, and then they're at a party, and they're like, we're engaged. She just put a hairband elastic on her finger and was like, I told him we were going to get married. And she's like, and we're pregnant. And everyone's like, oh, wow. And they're like, we're planning a wedding.
So this is a 30-ish couple. Very, very attractive. The guy is very professorish type with...
Oh, yeah. Big professors and glasses. And he teaches science classes.
Corduroy blazer.
Yeah.
So the most attractive sort of person, in other words, is what you're saying.
They make him a hidden cute. They make him a hidden beneath the surface. He's, when you first look at him, you're like, eh. But then when you hang out more with him, you're like, oh, you got some Hollywood hot underneath that. So.
When he takes off his glasses, it's like, oh.
Oh, even on the glasses, he moves his shirt up a little, and you're like, oh. But it's not steroidy. It's just oh. So yeah, they make him a little hidden hottie in there. And they live in New York City in a very nice apartment with a beautiful kitchen, but they never cook.
Yeah, they have a kitchen island that's bigger than our kitchen.
Yeah.
In Brooklyn. And she works as a children's bookstore clerk. And he works as a graduate student in neuroscience.
Yes.
And you could not afford that apartment.
No. And they're planning a wedding at the same time. So they're like, discussing wedding details, yada, yada. And then she goes to the doctor's for her pregnancy appointment, and she goes with them. And the doctor's like, I'm really sorry, you're actually not pregnant. You have a mass in your uterus, which is causing the bloating and the fatigue and all that. And so they're obviously pretty sad about that. And then they do more tests and they show it's fairly large masses, and they're like, this is not very good prognosis, like we need to start treatment, but this is not looking very good. And obviously they're devastated, and they try to have some humor with her, like calling to cancel her gym membership, and then she has to like cancel her wedding venue. She's like, I won't be available then, and you're like, oh.
It's not written by anybody who has had that experience, would be my guess.
Yeah, I don't feel like
it's
it.
Imagining cute, funny scenarios around having cancer.
And so she goes to a support group where they crochet, and I guess they all have terminal cancer, but they all look fairly healthy, and they all have their hair.
And in that room is Steve Coogan, Kate McKinnon,
and Christopher Walken.
And none of them do anything funny in any of those scenes.
And they're all dying of cancer?
Yes.
This is a terrible movie.
Steve Coogan, I don't know if he's just a support guy there. He's a facilitator, but Christopher Walken is being Christopher Walken.
Oh, he says that your husband or your boyfriend is going to go through a major slut phase.
Yeah, that's inappropriate.
After you die. And
Yeah.
he gets freaked out by this.
Super freaked out.
The idea of him sleeping with other women is like nightmare.
Because the idea is that they've been only with each other for their entire lives since 8.
Yes.
Because he's like, he's gonna get with somebody else.
He's gonna get with a lot of somebody else's.
Yeah. And he's like, you're young. And she's like, well, we've only been together. And he's like, oh, he's gonna go through a slut phase. And then that like kind of makes you a little laugh, but then you're like, then she freaks out, understandably. And then this is where the movie really derails even more so.
It takes quite a turn at this point.
It does. So she gets fixated on the idea that she needs to look out for him for when she's dead, and he needs to be able to find somebody else. So though she probably has multiple months to live, we don't exactly know how long, or what's going on. She starts to use a Tinder dating app to put a profile up for him, and then starts interviewing women under the guise of being his assistant to find him a woman.
To set him up with somebody to replace her is the idea, yeah.
Yes, to be a good partner for him, because she's like, he can't look out for himself. I know how to do the washing, and I cook things for him, She just is like, I need to get him a woman.
At one point, she goes and buys a whole shelf full of dummies books because she's afraid he doesn't know how to do anything. She has to show him how to do the laundry, like how to do a load of laundry, which apparently he's never done, ever, in their 30 years of being together.
Oh, my God.
It also becomes very symbolic because it's like, and you have to look for the dial to see when the time runs out. Then she breaks down.
And then they start to attempt to have sad sex, where they like start to make out, and that is kind of cute.
On the washing machine?
No, they move to that giant island, that kitchen island.
The kitchen island.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's what they use the island. I mean, I guess it makes sense that they don't do a lot of cooking on it then. Otherwise.
And so she's on the Tinder app, and she's interviewing women in a cafe, and she's literally like trying to find the best match for him, because they're like, they need to be the right fit.
Yeah, she's swiping. She's like, too slutty, too weird.
Yeah.
To this. You're really too slutty? Like, just from the picture?
She ends up meeting a girl she likes.
It's also looking for a woman who is looking for the kind of man that would have his assistant interview his potential love interest.
So here's the thing, though, is she's also replying to them on the app as him, if you think about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because she's writing in his voice to these women. That gets really creepy when you think about that.
It's weird. But then she's interviewing them in the cafe, and then she finally meets a woman that she likes. And she's like, so why am I meeting his assistant? Why don't I meet him? And then she's like, well, here's the thing. And she tells her that she's like, dying and wants her to get with him. And then the woman like goes out and is like, what is wrong
Sprinting
with you?
down the street.
Appropriately.
That's good, yeah.
Yeah.
Cynthia, what's her justification? Like, I never quite got it. She's like, they're going to be all over him. And what if
Oh, yeah.
the wrong woman takes him in? He's going to be helpless in front of all this swarm of women. And what if the wrong person gets him? What if somebody really mean and manipulative gets him?
He clearly has poor judgment in women. So
This whole time she's hanging out with Christopher Walken, which is surreal.
I know. No, but so here's another point you're missing. The barista at the cafe sees her and she's like, I know what you're doing. I've been watching you. And she's like, I think it's great. And I'm going to host a art show and you should invite all the women there and have him go there and meet them.
So does she set up dates with like 12 different women from Tinder at this art
Wouldn't
gallery
it
opening?
be weird that they all flock to him and he's like, what? Like, it's just weird. And this is while she's alive and he doesn't know he's being set up, which would make him a super asshole to be like, oh, my wife has terminal cancer. But at an art gallery, I met this really hot woman. So, I'm free in a couple months.
Meanwhile, she's outside the art gallery in a car with Christopher Walken, looking in with binoculars.
Oh, it's so weird.
She's watching him, and she's like, uh-oh, he's looking too happy.
And she buys him new clothes. She buys him skinny jeans. Why would you want to put him in skinny jeans? Because she's like, he needs a better wardrobe to attract the women the right way. No. But so then the guy is wearing the skinny jeans at the art show, and guess who starts talking to? The weird barista woman who thinks this is a great idea. So they start chatting a bit. And then she says, I think it's really wonderful what she's doing for you, like setting you up with other women. And he's like, really? And then he goes home and understandably gets really upset with her. And he's like, you've been setting me up with other women? What is wrong with you? And they have a fight. And then he talks to his friend, and his friend says, look, you should just do what she wants. Like, just go along with it. So then they make up and they start talking about like how to make his app better and taking better pictures. And you're like, what? And then they cut to 2 months later and I was like, 2 months later, what? I was like, so what's been going on in 2 months? And it's not really clear.
Was he on Tinder the whole time? Was he still going on dates? And it's 2 months later, so the cancer has seriously progressed. She's got like very light dark circles under her eyes.
She stopped wearing a lot of makeup,
She's very energetic. Doesn't seem to be in any pain.
Then at some point this guy is in he's in a bar and he's just frustrated about his fiance and they're having kind of relationship issues. So he starts flirting with other women because he's like, well, she wants me to. And then he shows up at the cafe with the cafe woman and she just goes, oh, hi. And he's like, yeah. And then they kind of black out and I'm like, what the hell just happened? Like, what? Like, have they been having a relationship this whole time, or are they just...
Is he hooking up with her?
What is going on? And then he shows up at their apartment, and his eyes are swollen because he was at her place, and she has cats, and he's allergic. But they don't say what happened, and, like, I'm just so confused what is going on in this movie.
Did he just, like, pet her cats or something?
He just went over and he's like, I need to talk to you and just hang out with your cats. Like,
yeah.
What happened? They don't tell us anything.
And they get into a big fight.
Yes, they get into a big fight, and then they, like, kind of get angry at each other and don't want to talk to each other, so they're kind of broken up in a way. So we're going to stop there.
Stop there.
You have to guess what happens in the rest of the movie now.
Guess what happens in the rest of the movie, Paul?
Yeah.
Okay, well, she dies. I mean, I'm going to go out on a limb there.
Okay, that was an easy one, Paul. We'll
yeah,
give you that.
An easy one. Yeah, we'll give you that one. But then you gotta finish the rest of the plot until she dies, and then the whole movie.
I'll tell you like what I thought was going to happen, and then what happens.
Did they somehow like end up in a sort of polyamorous relationship with this barista lady?
Well, you have to keep going and just finish it up.
I just don't see how this could end in any way that is even moderately romantic. Other than just like he finds somebody else and they go on.
All right. Well, I'll let you. I'll just let you go there. And then Daniel, what did you think was going to happen at this point?
Okay, I thought she was going to die, so we're on the same page there.
That they're broken up and that she's going to die,
and that it would cut back to him in the cemetery, and grieving. And her saying, basically, I let you go. And him saying, you truly are irreplaceable. But then he turns and goes back to the road from the grave, and there's the coffee shop girl there, and they hold hands, and he's like, even though she's irreplaceable, life keeps moving forward, or something like that. That it was going to be the coffee shop girl that he would eventually actually move on while accepting that Abby is truly irreplaceable in his heart. That's wrong.
I
Right.
still don't like that. I don't like that ending.
I should have listened to the title of the movie.
I can't see any other way it could go, but okay, let's see this.
Well, so here's the way. So they're broken up-ish. She goes back to her doctor, and he's like, you're not responding to chemo. Things are getting worse. You really need to wrap up things in your life. And she literally goes to the chemo suite, and he's like, oh, yeah, I'll set you up. And she's like, no, I'm leaving. And then around this point is where my waterworks start to happen. Like, there are some projectile tears that start to appear in the last half hour of this movie, where she goes to her support group. Christopher Walken is not there, and she's like, where is he? And they're like, he's no longer with us. And then she's like, what?
Where is Christopher Walken?
So, yeah, she goes to speak to his wife, and the wife was like, oh, he liked you. He said you were a schmuck, though, because you're, like, trying to do all these things for your husband or boyfriend instead of actually being with him.
Also, we're Jewish, by the way.
Yeah. So then she goes back to Sam, and she's like, look, I'm really sorry. And she's like, I just need to let you go. I can't keep trying to plan your future. And he's like, I want to be with you. And he pulls out that ring that she bought herself, and he proposes with it. And then they decide to start planning a wedding together, which is probably the worst way to spend, in my mind, the last few months of your life, is detailed planning a wedding.
Yeah.
So-
Like, you can't relax. You're just fucking
No.
chores every day.
And they're having it in their small apartment
Yep,
where they're
every day
like,
is a big
they're
to-do
like,
list.
They're like, she's looking for dresses, and they're all this, and you're just
They're
like,
calling
oh,
caterers.
God, this is the worst. So she doesn't lose any weight or anything. She doesn't even lose her hair. She just starts to wear less makeup. And then she like has a blanket on her sometimes.
She loses about 5 strands of hair, and that's
5
when she
strands
really
of hair. And then she's
panics
like,
at
oh
that
my
point.
God. Yeah, I've lost 5 strands of hair today. So like she then like looks up from her bed and she sees a hawk flying, which Christopher Walken had been trying to get her to see. And then they kind of hint that she's dying. Like she's like, she either dies then or she dies soon. And then they show them at the wedding party and she's dead. Everybody is gathered there for what there was going to be their wedding, but she's not alive anymore.
They just propped up her corpse, like Weekend at Bernie's style, which I thought was very tasteless. In a wedding dress.
This was projectile. I am getting married in 2 weeks, by the way. So this is like the worst movie Daniel could have had me watch. Thanks, Daniel.
Are you afraid that you'll die right before your wedding?
As like, let's get some cancer. Let's get some like wedding emotions. And so he reads a letter at her wedding that she wrote where she tells everyone to take care of themselves and yada yada.
Gives them a lot of bossy advice, too.
So she's like
Yeah.
in a coffin at the wedding?
No, she's just not there.
Oh, okay.
She says, you know what? I realized I wasn't going to live to my wedding, but I wanted you to have a party and have people there with you when I died. And she's like, so I did try to take care of you a little bit.
How does she know the exact time that she was going to pass
I
away?
don't know. I don't know. And then they show him at the aquarium where they first met. And then she's like, I'm gone. And he was like, yeah, you're gone too soon. And that's how it ends. So,
So he doesn't move on at all in the course of the movie.
no,
Nope.
because she's still alive. You don't
Didn't
have
you
to
hear the
move on
title?
when she's still alive.
Irreplaceable You.
Yeah. Wow. So her wedding becomes sort of the wake or whatever, right?
The wake,
It does.
yeah.
It's in their apartment, let's put it.
Yeah, and everybody's in pretty good spirits. But I mean, everybody grieves different. But like, the movie kind of really takes grief either. I don't know. They kind of tries to put a different spin on it, but it's kind of weird. Nobody seems to really cry or anything like that. It's just, I don't know.
It focuses on the fun parts of terminal cancer.
Mm.
Like Christopher Walken saying inappropriate things like, you got to work on your butt. Your butt's too flat. Like, and then
Right.
all of our segments now are just kind of sad or don't make sense. Like our segment, are they going to make it?
All right. So the next day, things are not good.
They show him at his grave and he's just like, bye.
But-
Like, oh.
He's got this expression on his face at all times of like, man, life is sure bittersweet sometimes. But I was sure glad to have met her.
He's got a Tinder profile that is up and going, so that's good for him. He's got a whole list of numbers that are already, kind of locked and loaded. That thing about him, going off and meeting a whole bunch of women after she's dead sort of became a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, well, he's probably going to go back to that cafe girl to hook up occasionally when he's really sad, because they already have that established, and I don't know what was going on.
Oh, yeah, and the next day he also opens a medical textbook, and there's all these notes that she left for him, which is sweet.
They're all like, I love you, yada yada.
So, yeah, basically their love is going to be perfectly preserved in a museum in his heart. They're still going to be the perfect couple even after she's dead.
I do agree with Daniel. They do make it very he's just like, well, I was lucky to have loved her. Ah, jeez. They do kind of make it and I'm just like, you are going to have a world of grief in your body soon. So, for a long time.
Well, I mean, that brings us to, are they going to make it?
So, I think how we can handle this is, what would have happened if they'd not had cancer?
Okay, good point. So they've been together since age 8, and she does not get cancer, and let's say she's not pregnant, and they're engaged.
There is a moment where they say, well, you had to get pregnant to get him to step up. So what's happening there?
He didn't want to get married, which maybe it was just literally a marriage thing. He just didn't like the legal thing, which fine and fair enough.
I mean, it's hard to argue that he wasn't committed to the relationship.
Yeah.
So that means that they've been together for 20 years without getting married.
I mean, to be fair, a large portion of that, it wouldn't really be practical, but yeah.
No. Early teens. Even though everybody knew it was going in that direction, even back then.
Yeah, age 9, they're like, look at those two, making out everywhere. Gosh.
Sitting beside each other on the beach boardwalk. Who looks at that and says, oh man, those two are destined to be together?
I know, but everyone keeps talking the whole movie. They're like, oh, you guys are the perfect couple. If only I could have that love for 5 minutes.
I sleep with a different woman every night, but I give it all up for what you have.
Yeah, it's got weird tones in this movie.
I don't know. There's some signs that she's a bit controlling, a bit of a jerk sometimes. I mean, to be fair, she does have cancer, which probably plays with your judgment.
Yeah, so I wouldn't judge her from post-cancer diagnosis. I'd say pre-cancer, and they still show them frolicking and happy pre. So I would say that they would make it on the fact of that they've made it for 20 years.
Yeah.
And they still seem fairly happy, and they still make out a lot, and they seem to have very fresh making out faces of just oh, I'm so into you. I mean, so at least, that's fresh.
One thing that bothered me was that she kept saying things like, oh yeah, and you're all about your protons and your neutrons. And he's like, that's neurons. He's been studying neuroscience for 10 years at this point.
And she hasn't bothered to actually pay any attention to his work?
He doesn't know that he's not a physicist. Yeah, she doesn't know anything about his work whatsoever. And apparently doesn't care.
And he does agree to marry her. They do agree to plan a wedding, but he never bothers to buy her a ring this whole point, even though they have this most amazing, apartment, and they obviously have signs of money, but she just walks around wearing a hair elastic on her hand, and you're like, you could literally buy her a $40 ring. You could just go to take her to Claire's or something. You don't have to spend a lot. Just that's a little sad.
All right, so ooh versus ew.
So this is the segment where we talk about romantic moments, wooing moments, and whether they would be more ooh or more ew.
I mean, there's not so much wooing in this, but there's definitely ew.
There's a lot of ew. There's putting your fiance on Tinder is a bit ew. There's putting him in skinny jeans, very ew. There's
just in general.
Oh God, I don't know why she thought that was an upgrade.
Isn't that a trend from 15 years ago? Skinny jeans.
I mean, I guess they're in New York. I don't know why she thinks he can't attract women without skinny jeans. I don't understand.
I mean, from what I understand, people did actually, wear skinny jeans voluntarily at one point.
They still do, but this guy did not need it. And if I was meeting him, and I think I would definitely be a potential partner for him, in the world, if I was there, because I don't know, I date a scientist. He would be a person that I would like on Tinder, hypothetically, in a world. I would not like the skinny jeans. I'd be like, Maybe she was just trying to get women to stay away from him, potential women to stay away from him subconsciously.
That sounds like Abby.
Yeah.
What about
Wow, yeah, that would be messed up if it was like, look, I created this Tinder profile for you and nobody likes you. You will never find anyone else.
what about when we see his game, like when we see him actually hitting on people?
Oh, he's terrible. He's just like, hey, how you doing? Like, he's
He
also
does it
drunk and
drunkenly,
he's
yeah.
desperate. He's drunken and desperate, and women are like, okay.
I mean, he has literally never flirted with anyone.
Never flirted with anyone. The girl who he ended up being with bit him, and that's how they got together.
Oh, geez. Good thing he didn't take that into heart.
I know.
And start biting other women?
Yeah. That could be bad.
Just sneak up behind them and chomp. I'll bet he's has a ton of game when he's not trying, I'll bet.
Yes, definitely. Which is why the cafe girl liked him, is because he just seems sweet and, nice. He definitely seems like a very sweet guy. He seems to really love his wife.
Kind of nerdy, but actually like movie star handsome underneath
Yeah,
it.
yup, totally.
All right, well, what's the endorphin report for this one? Obviously, the subject matter is a little dampening on the endorphins.
Yeah, so Daniel saw some endorphin potential and wanted me to see this film. And endorphins, I don't know about the endorphin part. I mean, there was some endorphins when there was some kissing between them. They seemed to have some genuine love between them, and that's kind of nice. But like more than anything, the last half hour, even though I knew they were manipulating me, I was like bawling my eyes out. Because I mean, like, I'm around cancer sometimes in my job. I'm getting married in 2 weeks. Like, just there's a lot of emotions going around here. And also, like, it's just so sad because they show things like her dress that she never gets to wear, and her mother is like, her daughter's dying. Oh my God, I haven't cried that much in a while. There was like projectile tears flying out. It was like I was like a comic character.
So did it make it more romantic, the tragedy of it?
No, it just made it really sad in general that people die, and then not to mention they're like dying before a wedding. He's always gonna know that he like tried to get married and that she died before, and that's just like heartbreaking. And it was really sad.
Yeah, I mean, it was really had the visual language of an indie movie and the kind of indie music cues you'd expect, like either Bon Iver or some dude who sounds like Bon Iver. Yeah, it really felt close to my urban middle class 30-something lifestyle. So it got to me, like the part when he kneels, it's on the boardwalk on the Hudson River, and he's proposing to her, even though he knows that she's going to die very soon. That really got to me. Endorphin sprinkles. I only got married 6 months ago, and shots of them moving in together and their life together. That's what really gave me endorphin sprinkles.
We talked about it, like with going after these kind of movies, when you're in need of a bit of a pick-me-up or something, which is certainly not the case for this one.
No, this is not a pick-me-up. This would be if I somehow needed to dehydrate myself, and I just instantly,
right, right before a big boxing match or something.
Yeah, I need before a weightlifting competition. I need to have really good abs. I just need to shoot it all out of me.
Just cut weight so you can get for the weigh-in.
Yeah, it's just like shish. In some movies, you do feel good after a major cry. This one was just sad crying. Oh gosh, there was so much crying.
Something that I liked was the scenes of them in bed together, like just kind of goofing around. That felt very real and very coupley in a way that I liked. Those were my endorphin sprinkle. So, overall report?
This would not typically be my overall go-to. I would say if this was something I was put in front of on a plane or something, I would get a lot of crying. But I don't think it would be something that would pull me to it for the sprinkles. And yeah, there's like minimal sprinkles in there because things are sweet. But it wouldn't be something that I'd be like, oh, that was a real good puller.
Yeah, but this is the closest so far for me of being something that really felt romantic to me. So yeah, we have different senses of this. That's the spice of this podcast. I don't dream of being whisked away by a prince from Slovakia or Herzegovina.
Yeah, fake country place.
Well, that's the thing is these endorphins, it's not something you're like, oh, I want to be a princess and kissing. There's just these isolated moments within movies that sometimes can produce them, even if it doesn't make sense or it's not something you actually wish for. It's just isolated bits
That
can
makes
happen.
sense.
So it doesn't mean that it's like a woman's wish for that. It just means something isolated in this is causing some.
Yeah.
Yeah, like some major one I had was Pride and Prejudice, the new one that I saw, the Keira Knightley. Major endorphin sprinkles. Do I want to be like back then? No. Do I want to go through that? Absolutely not. I don't even think that guy would be a great partner long term, probably. But the way they engineer the movie, I got major endorphin sprinkles.
By that guy, you mean Mr. Darcy?
Yeah, Mr. Darcy's not great at parties. So I'm like, that would stink.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, folks.
Yeah, thanks everybody, and thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Endorphin Report.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Then tune on in for the Endorphin Report. The Endorphin Report.